Oh my gosh, my friends, I'm already grinning ear to ear. Super psyched to be hanging out with Chad Henkel. Chad, what's up, bro? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes.
What's up, Ned? I'm so pumped to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
Yeah, dude, I got chills right now. So, you and I are both in Superhuman Fathers. I don't know how long you've been in. I've been in for over a year. And, you jump on these calls and there's dudes sharing and you're getting to hear wisdom. And every time you speak, it seems as though people really just jump in and listen to what you have to say because there's depth there. There's wisdom there. Was that always the case? Or did some of that come through your transformation, your like physical transformation?
Yeah, I don't think it was always the case because I think what was like a common theme for me is I moved a lot as a kid. I moved at one point I moved like 100 times. So I had to like that's not even an exaggeration. I was like house to house, state to state. I don't even know, but I counted it when I was
Wild.
19 and I was like, I can't believe I moved that many times. So I had to become a chameleon. And what that means is like, you see like a shell of me, but you don't really get to know me. And so everything
Yeah.
was super surface. And because it was surface, I didn't really expose myself or like let myself be known intimately by anyone. Like you can
Yeah.
only get to a certain level and then it's a stop. And it's like, no, you don't get here. So like when I joined Superhuman Fathers, the thing that changed for me is I learned how to embrace certain parts of myself that I was uncomfortable revealing. And this process really started like much earlier, but this is where I started using it as a way to leverage myself and other men to be vulnerable, like to in large groups. Like I'm trying to model what it's like to not only other men, but also to my children, and not act like I have it all together. Like I got it all figured out. Like that was the old me. I don't know nothing except for what I've lived. That's it. And even that is up for discussion. I'm like flexible. Might not be right, but like
See, that's cool because the story that you're telling yourself about maybe something that happened, like you could reframe that depending on what it is that you're talking about.
Oh, 1,000%. Like, when I'm talking with guys, like I want to know the traumas and I want to know the darkness because until we're there, man, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like if you can't be known in that way, like and really expose yourself to another human and just say like, here I am, boom, like judge me or whatever you want, but like I'm okay with me. It's like so hard. So yeah, like certain things that happen to me for me, I think things happen for me, but like when those things happened for me, at first I had a narrative and that narrative evolved. Like it just took time to like understand the evolution because where it started and where I ended, two different places,
Yeah. Oh, dude, beautiful. We're going to get into that. Now, I do just want to jump right out the gate and just celebrate this real quick. Tell me, because it's so amazing, your transformation when you did Superhuman Fathers. You probably get sick of talking about it, but it's so inspiring to hear a dude go, this is what I weighed. And then after this is what I weighed. What was that difference right there?
Yeah, it was basically like over 100 pounds, man. I was walking around at
It's wild, bro.
Yeah, like 190, 290 some odd pounds, depending on what the day was. And then I cut all the way down to 191.
Bro.
Wild.
Bro.
Yeah.
Tell me when people ask you about it, what are the couple things you say, hey, this is what's important, how'd you do it? Whatever. What is it like the quick, 10, 15 second words of wisdom you give to somebody who's like, I want to go after this? What do you tell them it takes?
For me, it became buying into the concept of a process versus an end result. And like, I think a lot of people are like, when I started, bro, I only wanted to lose like 20 or 30 pounds. Like I didn't even know the assignment. Like seriously, I was just
Yeah.
I didn't know the assignment. I didn't know I was going all the way to 190, dude. I had no clue. But what happened was I started on the path, and then I realized like very early that like, oh, this is a process about quick forgiveness and getting what
Oh,
you know like that's what it's about for me. And that's like kind of like my life, like my life. If you're like, what's something that's really been a tool set for me is just understanding that like, this idea of quick forgiveness and shutting myself of toxic shame, like,
yeah, bro.
oh, so good. Like it's felt so good to share that with others. It's been,
Yeah. Dude,
yeah,
and how wild is it that we could go learn that with food or missing a workout? You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like people see the pictures on Instagram of all these different things that are out there, but Superhuman Fathers, you're like, shit, I want a six pack. That's amazing. And
yeah,
then what you're really wanting is you're wanting to forgive yourself quicker. You're wanting to not fall into a rut for weeks and months and years, right? And that can all be learned through these daily disciplines of putting together a plan, knowing that you're probably going to fail. When you fail, don't go into 2 weeks of binging. Go into 20 minutes or 2 days or one day. Continue to shorten that and
yeah,
then not live in shame.
yes,
Dude, okay, I'm going to jump into some questions for you. All
yeah.
right. Chad Henkel, how old do you find yourself today?
I feel like I'm 17 in my brain, but I'm 41.
41. Love it.
Yeah.
And how many years you been married?
I've been married 17 years, man.
Dude, kudos, bro.
Thanks, man.
Kudos. And then
Yeah.
how many kiddos do you have?
I have five kiddos. Five
And
kiddos.
what's the age range?
Man, so it goes from I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. My daughter, which, we can get into this a little bit, but my daughter would be 8, but she passed away when she was almost 3. And then, my youngest son is 2, a little over 2. He just turned 2 in July. In
Dude, you
July.
got the spread, bro. Are you done or what?
Yeah, we're done. I'm not why we're definitely done as well. So yeah, there's definitely a story there for sure. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome, bro. So we have 5 kids as well. Ages 10 is my youngest and 17 is my oldest. We've got twins in there.
Okay.
So similar. We don't have the youngers quite anymore.
You hit
Um,
you hit the cheat code, Ned.
yeah,
The twinners.
yeah, it did steal 2 years of our life that we don't remember, but I'll take it now. We call it the dark year when the twins were born.
Oh,
Um, okay, so what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living to provide value out in the world?
yeah. So I like to just consider myself a connector. Like I like to connect
Mm,
with people. But what I do for my career is I'm in business development and sales for a digital marketing agency. Like that's what I've been
okay,
doing for like basically 12 years. Yeah, it's been
nice.
a haul. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then where does your family reside? Where do you guys live?
So we are in the thriving metropolis of Meridian, Idaho, not just right outside of Boise, Idaho. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
My daughter and I were just, one of her friends is going to Boise State. So we were just watching some videos the other night. We were on a date and then we were in the car just watching videos of Boise State, seeing what it was like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really nice town. It's cool. Hopefully, if you ever get convinced to leave the tropical paradise, make your way over. I'll show you some
Yeah, man.
Gene and we can check stuff out. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. When did you embrace fatherhood? So, you've got a 16-year-old down to a 2-year-old. At what point did you go, man, this really matters and I want to lean into this role?
Wow. That's a great question. Well, I think the family is a huge focus of my faith and like why
Mm,
we do what we do. Like I really do believe that families are forever. And so
mm,
this concept has been like taught to me since I was a young boy. But to be honest, like there was like many years where I just felt like I was living, but I wasn't living, if that meant, if
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
like I was alive, but I wasn't living. Maybe like that, like I
Yeah.
think it was like that because I felt like I was so inadequate as a father. Like I didn't know what it meant to be a father. I think I'm even still learning what it means to be a father. And it took
Yeah.
time for me to like settle into this because there was a point where I just felt like I wasn't cut out to be a dad. Like it just felt like I was kind of just broken, like I
Mm.
just felt like I was a broken person walking around and all my shame, all my vices, all these things that are, happening. And I'm like, oh man, if I could just hit the escape button right now, like that,
Yeah.
that would be great, like that would be great. And, so, when I really embraced it, it was just through my darkest moments is when I
Mm.
started embracing fatherhood and understanding like what I really had before me was incredible opportunity to make impact for generations.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge. So, two questions. One is, what do you think gave you the insecurity of, you use the word inadequate, but I feel like a lot of us men are walking around feeling inadequate to lead our homes, to be, fathers. What would you say gave you that sense of inadequacy?
Well, I think early on in my life, like I carried around so much toxic shame from
Mm.
just like what I was exposed to as a child, being, molested as a child, bro. Like you just
Mm.
carry a certain amount of like trauma with that.
Yeah.
And you're trying
Yeah.
to figure out like, well, first of all, how do I even like unravel this? Because you don't even understand it when you're a child. And most people
Right.
don't understand it as adults. So like what do
Right.
you do? So it's kind of one of those things where I think what I found was I started really working on my personal development by going to 12-step programs that are designed for lust and different things like that. And that's where my journey really started in releasing shame, is because I was so stuck inside myself. I
Yeah.
was so medicated with like pornography and food and all these lust-based addictions that was just like more and more and more. And dude, I couldn't consume enough at times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what it did is it created a double life in me, you know? Like there's still times, Ned, like this is so silly to talk about, but it's perfect because I don't want to say this, but I have to because it's so true. Like there's still times I'll go into the pantry and almost feels like I'm sneaking food. Why am I doing that? And I think
Yeah.
because of that pattern that I had established for so many years that I haven't broken out of just giving myself permission to be imperfect, perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the you giving yourself permission. I feel like so many men are looking around to get like a permission from somebody to
Yeah.
live their life. So the first thing you said is the inadequacy. So you talked about that insecurity came from shame, and but then you talked about this idea of multi-generation, like your impact is going to basically go beyond your life. Was there a key moment in your personal development where that kind of clicked for you, that this personal development isn't just for today, it's for 100 years from now?
Yeah. I'm not even sure I would even frame it that way because, like, for
Mm.
me, it's become so apparent to me, especially within the last 5 years, that, like, right now is all that really matters for me. Like,
Mm.
that's it.
Mm.
Like, I don't know, someday someone will, like, say my name for the last time. I don't know
Yeah,
when.
isn't that wild?
That's so crazy, man. But like, someone said my name for the first time. Someone's going to say it for the last time. And I don't know when that is. But what I do know is right now I have an opportunity. And what I realized was like 5 years ago, it was like a Friday afternoon. And I had the voice come to me and say, Chad, go home and spend time with your family. Just
Mm.
And I did not do it, dude.
Mm.
I didn't do it. In fact, I went and watched a movie. Like, it's just like, I'm not cut out to be this man. Like, I'm not him, you know? Well, come to find out, man, like that night, that night, I get home, it's late. My daughter comes out of her room, this little 2-year-old daughter. She's so beautiful, right?
Hmm.
And it's almost like she had a nightmare. I thought she did, I think, and maybe she did. But she she came out of her room, she was just kind of sad and crying, and I didn't know what was going on, but like time progressed and it was clear that she was very sick. It was clear that she was progressing, getting hotter, not being able to keep her fluids down. And I'm just trying to hold her all night. This is not my first rodeo. Like I had no idea what was happening to her. But what I realized is very quickly, she started passing out and her face was turning blue. And then she would come back
Oh.
to consciousness. So my wife and I are like freaking out, trying to figure out like, what the heck do we do? It's in the middle of the night. We call, my wife's mother. She comes over. She's with the kids, and we're going to the hospital. Long story short, they do some tests and determine that she needs to go to the pediatric intensive care unit in Boise. And what we were not prepared for was basically once we got there and we were comforting her, and again, she was coming in and out of consciousness. And like Ned, we had a Christian doctor, who is just, this tall man with this beard. His name is Derek. We called him Dr. Derek. Some people called him Dr. Jesus because he looked like Jesus, bro. Like, I asked this doctor, I said, Dr. Derek, like, is my daughter going to make it? And he said, your daughter is in her condition's very serious. And we're going to fight. We're going to give her every chance. And it felt hopeful. Like it felt
Mhm.
hopeful. But bro,
Yeah.
when I walked into that hospital, Ned, it was my worst nightmare because I felt so unworthy as a father to be in this position. Like I didn't even feel like I could pray.
Yeah.
I didn't even feel like I could pray over her and bless her in a way that would be like ratified by God. Like it just didn't feel, I felt so like unprepared for this moment
Yeah.
and helpless, clearly, right? And things with my wife and I weren't great, like I didn't have a great marriage or anything like that. Like it felt broken too. So I'm just like, what is going to happen? So bro, this like progressed over a couple days. She had kidney failure. She was on life support. She took her last breath, and I walked out of that hospital feeling connected to God, feeling connected to my wife,
Mm.
feeling connected to myself for the first time. And I felt almost like all these prayers from people were like lifting me up. Like the power of prayer, like blessed me huge in the
Mhm.
hospital. But I walked out without my daughter,
Yeah.
you know? And so like the thing
Wow.
that's so wild about that, this concept of the walk is like usually when someone passes away in a hospital, they have procedures and policies of who can bring who where, and it just became apparent to me that I needed to be the one to bring her to the morgue. Like it was the last thing I could do. And they made an
Mm.
exception for me to do that.
Wow.
And so
Wow, bro, that's heavy.
it is heavy, man. And it's like the amount of like burn in my arms was unreal because it felt like we were walking forever, you know, and I just let it burn. I just let it burn. I was like, burn as hard as you can, because this is the last time. This is it, and then I'm going to put her down and I won't ever talk to her again, potentially, until we meet again. Like, this is it. So this is my last act of service as a father,
Mm.
and all of this was sinking in as I was like taking each step. It's just the burn got brighter and brighter. And in a way, and looking back, it was almost like it was the start of a cleansing for me as a dad. Is this burn that happened in my arms? Like, I would get reconnected with it later,
Yeah.
but not before I like went darker. Like, so things
Mm.
were good, and then things got worse, and I let go of myself, and I said, I don't ever want to feel that again, ever. Like, that's reserved, special
Yeah. Yeah.
territory, you know. And I kind of just drank the poison of like, if I feel that, it's going to be because I'm holding her again, and I'm not going to feel that ever again, And so I made like this, almost like this covert contract with myself and God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't covert with God, I guess, but it was covert with anyone else. Like, nobody else knew, but God knew, And anyway, so I don't know, man. Like, long story short, I got to this place where I had accepted what had happened, and it's not that I never had the punching the roof of my vehicle or screaming at God and just like, what, like, why is this
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Like, this is the process, bro. Like, it was the process. Like, God was turning me into something different, and it just took some time to figure that out. And my transformation, the thing that like was early on in my transformation, is I was encountering lactic acid like no other. And I was having like so many emotions. I was crying in the weight room, man. Like, I was the guy that was like, what is going on with homeboy over here? Like, he is not well. But it was so good because I was able to reconnect that feeling with
Yeah.
her and realize, like, oh, when I'm feeling that now, I'm feeling her now. And it's
Mm.
about really like leaning into this idea of now. And like the
Wow.
rest has really progressed from there. Like, I have a whole philosophy around, what it means to be in the now. Whereas like before, like it was like an incomplete puzzle. Like, it was missing some pieces and I just couldn't make sense of it.
So what does that mean then? How to be in the now?
Well, the now is basically like, if the way I think about it is like this straight line. Okay.
Mm.
If you hold the line, you're in the now. And like, the thing is we're all human, right? So we're going to deviate into the past or into the future. And we're going to basically have these kind of ripples that go along the now. And I think the problem is most people don't understand that they are living their last moments every single time they breathe.
Wow.
So when I think about it like that, it's like there was this moment, because like we're bottle feeding, the little man and our little 2-year-old, and
Yeah.
we had to like abruptly wean him. But it kind of like, it made me sad because I was like, oh man, he had his last bottle,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and I didn't know this then, but like that night was my last night snuggling with a daughter.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that, you know?
Right.
I didn't know the previous night was the last night I read to her, you know? So like there's all these moments where we're like living the last time and we don't even realize the last time was like,
Wow.
when was the last time that you threw your kid in the pool? There's going to be a last time. Like, my
Right.
kid's now 165 pounds, man. I can't even pick him up. He's huge. But
Yeah.
like, there was a last time for that. And, like really settling into that gift of presence and just saying like, dude,
Hmm.
this might be the last time. And it's somewhat of a mental like gymnastic game, because it almost feels like I don't know. It almost feels like a, I don't know, like you're creating some kind of thing that isn't, like maybe being more dramatic than it really is. But the thing is, like, when you have a child pass away, it starts to rearrange the deck and how it's stacked and how you need to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
you have this real life scar that is a reminder of being present, and it's like communicating that to somebody who hasn't lost a child or hasn't had to go through that, and having them choose to be as present as you can be because of the loss that you've experienced. It's like we want people to learn from our stories versus having to go live through some of the pain.
yeah. Well, and the beauty is, Ned, like everybody has an equivalent story for them. And like you don't have to like have a child leave you early. Like you don't have to have that to like understand the presence of now.
True. Yeah.
But you do have to come to grips with what that is and like and speak life into it, because if you can't
Yeah.
speak life into like what has happened, there's no way to really leverage that darkness into light. It just stays dark.
Yes. Leverage the darkness into light. So let me ask you your opinion on this. And I won't give you my opinion yet. Uh, when people say like everything happens for a reason,
Hmm.
what's your opinion on that?
Hmm. Everything happens for a reason. Hmm. It's almost, it's like a really cheap version to a long book. Yeah. Like that reason, like it feels like there's miles in between the R and the E and the A and the S and the O and the N. Like there's just so much in that word
Yeah.
that really hard to capture with that phrase that like, you know, I think everything happens for a reason, I guess, but also like the reason
So
is,
I don't. I don't. I mean, you keep going, but like
yeah,
you ended it with this, I guess, like a question. I
yeah.
think we make this statement to people all the time, and I heard a friend say this on a podcast once because somebody, and he just called him out. He's like, I actually don't think that. I've seen too much bad shit to think that this stuff happens like on a purpose. But the statement you said, which you can expand, or we could move on, but like the whole Romans 8:28, right? Like good, something along the lines of, good happens to those, or I should know this,
Mhm.
who trust in the Lord, whatever, not whatever, it matters. But your statement, leverage the darkness into light.
Mm.
That to me, because to say, hey, this happened to you for a reason, your daughter passed for a reason, like that just seems like Christianese shit that we speak to people, and I don't know why. And I disagree that this happened like, oh, I need Chad to know me better, so I'm going to have his daughter pass away. Like that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound like a good dad to me. Life happens. Like literally life just happens. And we have a choice though of how we're going to operate from it, which your statement was so beautiful to me. That's why I bring this up, is like leveraging the darkness into light removes you from being a victim and
Mhm.
living a sad sob story forever, which you are a victim to something bad that happened, but it's not controlling how Chad shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so dude, I love that statement.
Yeah, and I think part of the challenge for us as fathers is we get to choose the narrative that
Yes.
that is happening. That is not something that's pushed down onto us, and we have to accept that something bad happened, and therefore this is bad, and this means that God hates me, and this means that XYZ. Like we get to choose the narrative. Like and that's my belief. Is like
Yep.
I think everything happens because there are natural consequences to everything. There are natural
Yes.
consequences. Like it's natural that when someone gets sick and they have some type of immune system deficiency that was unknown,
Right.
it's normal that they go into sepsis. It's
Yes.
normal that they get put on life support, and it's normal that they pass away. And that's not unique. But the way that I get to
Mm,
meaning to all of that and live that and learn from that, I can leverage it into dark or light.
right. Yeah, it's your choice. Like you get to choose. So dude, I think this statement is like leverage the darkness into light. And just so my mom doesn't disown me, Romans 8:28 is, and we know that all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And I think that just goes to, because I've always struggled with that. But I think it's like, if I choose the creation, I choose good versus I choose chaos, right? Chaos, darkness, creation, light.
Yeah.
Um, So with that, let me ask you this. If somebody was going through a similar situation, how, whether you did or didn't do it well, how would you recommend supporting the siblings and your spouse during that time? Like if a man was finding himself in a situation where their family was really grieving like this.
Hmm. Well, this is all going to happen in phases, and I can tell
Mm.
you what doesn't work. What doesn't work is, not that we didn't talk about it. It's just that, like, even my son, like, I was surprised to learn that he took on some of that responsibility for this.
Mm.
Thought that he got her sick, and he thought that it was his fault for like
Wow.
a year,
Wow.
you know? So it's kind of like a good time to like rally the troops and say, like, look, we get to be honest about how we feel. And it's okay to be upset, but
Yeah.
we can't
Yeah.
stay upset. Like there's certain things that I guess I'm just like, there's different vibrations that we can choose. Like grief is the lowest vibration of all, bro. Like it's the lowest. And it's also that's why like it's not experienced like full time. It's like
Mm.
we are allowed to, like, we get to, grieving is not, in my experience, I don't know. So I can't speak for humanity. In my experience, grief comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And in some ways I don't even get to choose it. Like I can just tell sometimes, like, man, I need to cry. I haven't cried for a while.
Mm.
And I'll just make the decision to like lean into that. And that's what like relieves me. So like when a rabbit gets
That's good.
chased in the woods, okay? Like this is the difference between humans and animals, okay? A rabbit gets chased by a coyote, escapes, goes inside the bush, and basically starts to shake. And it shake, 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 and then it kind of almost like rattles itself back in, and then it's off to jumping rabbitville again, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how animals deal with grief. Like
Mm.
that's it. That's how they deal with trauma, is they shake, right? So like as humans,
Mm.
we have such complex brains that like sometimes we're not giving ourselves that chance to like be not okay. Like let's just put it
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's almost like we feel like as fathers we need to come in and rescue the day and pretend that we got it all figured out
Oof.
and be
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the person and not let our kids cry because that would show weakness, and we need to be strong right now because no one else is. Like, dude, I'm rebelling against that idea 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not interested in that type of fathering because that's not real. And I need my kids to see a model of what it looks like when a man is vulnerable. Like,
Dude.
what is it like to not have it together? Like, I'm talking to my son right now about this. Like, Jackson, I have been down the road that you're on. I did
Yeah.
not do it right. And like, so I'll just tell you my experience, and you get to make your own choices.
Right.
And then you get to experience the natural consequences of those choices. So like, but like, I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you and give you perspective and what I know. And you're going to go through things that I'm not going to know, but then I get to learn from you, and it's like it's this opportunity to give and take, so like, I think so much, it's like parenting looks like a top-down approach, but if it's not bottom-up too, like we miss so much that our kids can teach us, and it's
Oh,
super unfortunate.
dude, 100%. So with that in mind, what is something that you've learned about yourself in being a father?
I think the thing that I've learned about myself is I like to be a communicative parent. Like, I feel like there are certain topics and certain cultural things, especially inside like super conservative religion, that like just don't get enough airtime, even at church. And like, I don't even think church should be the vehicle. Like, this needs to be
Mm-hmm.
like a home centered discussion and church supported type thing going
Love
on,
that.
you
Yeah.
know? But like for
So
me,
what's a home-centered discussion? So this is great. Like what would be a home-centered discussion?
a home centered discussion would be like discussing sexuality with my kids,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
discussing lust and discussing pornography and discussing sex and discussing masturbation and discussing all these things that I have life experience with, that they are having life experiences with, and meeting them where they are,
Right.
kind of meeting them where they are and not give them this impression that, like, hey, we don't do that around here. And then, like, what? What are they supposed to do with that? Live with it. They'll just suck it in, and then they don't talk to anybody. And
Yep.
then guess what happens? Cycle repeats itself. Now
Yeah.
my kids are trying to figure out how to be a parent and how do I get rid of the shame, and they're in their 20s and 30s and going through this.
Yeah.
I want to like rebel against the idea that my kids can't come to me unless it's good news. Like
Mm.
I want the bad news.
Dude, that's
You know?
huge. Bring me the bad news. And then how's dad going to respond? Can I trust dad with bad news as much as I could trust him with good news? And we could mess up the good news too. Like celebrate the A's to such a degree that they become performance based. So it's like, dads, we got to freaking pay attention to our responses. But I love that thought. Can my kid come to me with bad news, and how do I respond? What's some thoughts you have around how dad could respond in that?
Well, I can tell you I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I think there was a time where I was so insecure about what I was experiencing as an adult that it would have been really difficult for a teenager to approach me, because I was probably a little more like blind
Yeah.
to like what else could be going on other than like what it has to do with me. So basically, I mean, it kind of came back to me being selfish, like I was
Mm-hmm.
just selfish and self-centered and center of the universe complex, like, so like I didn't think about it from that angle, but thank goodness, like I've been on in this process of like revealing who I really am to the
Mm-hmm.
people that I love and to people who need me, so that I'm a safe place to land. Like
Mm.
I hope my kids like think of me as like dad was safe, like dad was safe. And like, so what does it look like to model that safety? It means I have to also be vulnerable and,
Yes.
and let my kids understand that, like, first of all, I will disappoint you for sure.
Hmm.
Like I am not doing everything right. Okay. Like, but I am striving and I am working towards becoming better each day. And so, like, that level of honesty and also revealing myself to my kids, like revealing my weaknesses to my kids, I think is like created like this. Goodness, dude, like, geez, I thought I was crazy, like kind of like this relief in the room where it's like, okay, I'm approachable now, like it allows
Mm.
to kind of like sink into the idea of like, what would it be like if dad's telling me what he just told me, does that mean that like he's given me permission to tell him? Yes, like 1000%. So like if we can be vulnerable with our children and let them understand like what we have lived, and not act like we always got it together and we always got to hold this line, that of perfection, almost this perfection,
Yeah.
this posture of perfection. Like, man, it's like, that's like so dangerous because it's not how the real world is. And then when our kids get to this place where they're like, man, I feel like my dad really had it together compared to me. Like, I hope my kids never
Yeah, 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 yeah,
see me.
dude. I love this idea of like being approachable and being open to tell your kids like I'm going to disappoint you. And this is kind of clicking for me a bit right now because I just recently was in this teaching, and the teaching was on 3 types of trust. Blind trust, which is like a little kid trusts. Then there's naive trust, blind trust. Maybe it was naive trust, blind trust, and then mature trust. And most of us live in this blind trust. Like, I just blindly trust that my dad's always going to support me, or my friend's always going to be awesome to me, or whatever. And then we're like so devastated when shit falls apart. Like, we're so devastated. Like, how could this have happened? And the mature trust is like, I know that at some point Chad and I are going to be friends a long time, and Chad's going to do something that he puts himself above me, or whatever it is, right? And I'll have this moment of, I could be like this victim of so disappointed, how could you do this to me? Or I could say, hey, Chad's a person, I'm a person, I've let people down. Hey, you're forgiven. You apologize, forgive him, move on. I'm not carrying this. And so that's something that I'm wanting to lean into with my kids a bit more, is that idea of this mature trust, which is, I'm going to let you down. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's not necessarily bad. It's an opportunity for us to both be vulnerable. You share how you feel, I share why I messed up, and our relationship actually can become deeper, as long as it wasn't, obviously there's things that could be done out of malice or
Yeah.
like really misguided hurt. But
Yeah.
but I love leaning into that. Like, we don't have to be perfect, and if we strive for that, we're screwing our kids over.
Yeah, man. I had 2 thoughts. I don't know if I'll remember both, but like, one thought about what you just said that I think is so clutch for dads is the way we model that. I think the way we model it, I don't know if there's probably more ways, but like, I think one way we model it is by not saying sorry. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
say, like, instead choose to say something different, like, I was wrong. Like, say I was wrong. That allows
Yeah.
you to understand that it's like, sorry is cheap and wrong really takes a different tone, and it allows
Yeah,
us.
that's ownership. That's ownership for sure.
Yeah, man. And like, think about like when our kids are going through life, like, they're modeling in a lot of ways. At least this is how it worked for me, is I modeled my view on God after how my parents felt.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So like, there was this like certain level of like, God really loves me when I'm good, and he's really upset with me when I'm bad. Okay, that kind of makes sense because that's what I see. That's what I'm living.
Mm,
We're told it differently. Like, as humans, we're just going to like synthesize that way. Like, at least that's how it happened for
yeah.
me. So, like, what I had to
No,
get
100%.
was this place of like, oh, I'm really turned around on like what I think God is for me. And I had to fire him, bro. Like, I had to fire that version of God because
Yes.
it was limited. It was like this limited,
Mm,
finite
mm,
God who could just love me when I was good and just be upset with me and punish me when I was bad. And that's just kind of how God was for me for a long time.
yeah.
And then I got to this place where I was like, oh man, you're not just God, you're my father. Like,
Mm,
dude, like, he really cares about the little things. And like, for example, like, I haven't really shared this with anybody, but 4 days before my daughter passed away, 2 or 3 days, I keep this in this little book, these flowers.
mm,
I gotta like laminate these things, so I'm being very gentle. But I keep these flowers in this book because they're the last thing she touched that I can like
mm.
hold. And I came
Yeah.
home and from the hospital, and my heart was just like broken. And our neighbors had come and done all this yard work, and they planted a bunch of flowers. But like, I came to my desk, and here were these like 3-day-old wilted flowers. I
Mm.
remembered, oh, dude, she gave me those. Like, she came in, and that was the last time she gave me flowers. Like, that was it. So
Yeah.
now like I have this like incredible connection with flowers, and I connect
Hmm.
that with God. And like,
Hmm.
this might even sound a little crazy, but like I'm so connected with flowers that sometimes I'm walking by them. This is going to go on the internet. It's going to be awesome. But like sometimes I feel like they're just staring at me and saying hello. Hi,
Hmm.
look at me.
Hmm. Dude, I love the crazy. I love it. I mean, that's connected,
Yeah,
right? Like that is not just being in your head, but being present to life. Like the reality is life is all around us if we choose to see the light and the life. And I don't think that's crazy at all, bro. I think that is
I
a
don't think it's
sign
crazy
of
either. Yeah,
connected.
yeah. I don't think it's crazy either. It just like if you've never really thought about that before, you're probably gonna sit back and be like, huh, he feels connected to flowers. And like, yeah, bro. Like I feel so connected to flowers and hummingbirds and sunsets and sunrises because like I get this moment, this opportunity to be like,
Mm,
just to connect for that moment and point that out to my kids and help them remember and root them back into something that they can depend on, which is the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set and beauty is there. Like, and you can choose to notice it and acknowledge it, or you can walk by the flower. But like we walk by the flowers and we pick them and we smell them and we like them. And there's just all these things going on. It's like, it's just beautiful, man. Like it's
well,
like a
dude, what's hitting me is the things that you just said, right? A few minutes ago, you talked about we're on this line, right? And we kind of deviate from this line, we come back to it. But when we're on the line, we're present. And all of us always on mission from point A to point B, whatever that looks like throughout our day. But why did God make the sunset beautiful, the sunrise beautiful, the flowers beautiful? Dude, those things make us pause.
mm,
If we choose, they make us
yeah,
stop. Right? Hey, because I mean, we watch the sunset a lot here. We'll be like, hey, everybody, it's 65, whatever, sunset's happening right now. Everybody come out. And everyone's like stops what they're doing and
mm,
comes outside. And for this brief moment, you're all together. Time has stopped, the mission has stopped, and you're like connecting to each other. And that's the first time that hit me. As you say, the flowers, you're like connecting to them. Those are our moments, dude,
yeah.
to pause and be present.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and that's part of like why the journey, my transformation journey, was so meaningful to me. Is
Hmm.
because like I had to reconnect with like what pain was, and how can I
Mm-hmm.
leverage that pain and give it deeper meaning than just like, oh, my muscles are burning. Gosh, that's
Right.
uncomfortable.
Right.
Like, oh man, every rep is a connection, and it
Mm-hmm.
me to be there in that moment, because like when you're going through pain, it's really hard to be somewhere else. It's like you're just there,
Right.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and like that's what the gym is now. Is it's no longer a gym, it's almost like a temple. And like you
Mm.
walk in there and you're like, okay, like how are we going to honor the moments? It's by staying connected in the reps, and it's just so incredibly difficult. I don't even know if it's possible to be doing like really intense work and not be there. Like it's so hard, like to
Right.
not be connected in those moments. And it's that same way. So like everything, I just feel like everything in life, there's like this outward thing happening, like face value thing happening,
Mm. Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's up to us to take that and assign meaning so that there's spiritual connection to like what the outward is. And like I think it's a huge pattern. Like a sunset could be just a sunset, you know or it could be like a moment of like presence. A rep
Yeah.
could be just a rep, or it could be like like you're building yourself into a harder to kill version, of
Yeah.
whatever you want to be. I don't know, but it's like that with like literally everything. You think about like religion and all the different things that happens in religion. Like, is baptism really just baptism, or is
Mm.
there a spiritual component to the baptism? Is taking the Lord's Supper, the sacrament, really just taking bread and water? Or is it actually like there's something inside that has to happen to ratify the outside? I mean, I think that that's like the tug of war. It's like sometimes, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to be like sunset, who cares, and not think about it at all. And like our purpose is to live like that as parents for our kids, to like really
Yeah.
settle in and be like, oh, shoot, we got a disconnection in the house. Someone just yelled. How can I help them understand the moment right now? And like really bring them into that moment with me, which requires me to just stop and be like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I'm in the moment. I understand.
I'm here.
I'm not in the emotions of the problem. I get to go and bring them with me now and see if I
Yes.
get them to connect. I think that's
Yes. Dudes listening right now, are you so focused on yourself that you don't even notice if there's a disconnection in the house? Like, that's our duty, man. Our duty is to provide security, boundaries, and I would say opportunities for connection and belonging in our home. But to do that, we have to be present in now and not just focused on tomorrow or our own BS. So I love that. If I hear this in the house, is there a disconnection? And then how do you physically did it, Chad. You're like, okay, let's create connection in this moment. So, dude, super powerful. Bro, we have like 10 minutes left and we could talk for probably 3 hours. Is there a story or a thought that you're like, dude, I don't want to be in my day later and have missed this this story or thought that I really wanted to share?
Yeah, man. We were talking about it a little bit before before we started, but like, I think there's a lot of men who are probably feeling inadequate, unworthy, and ashamed about their role in the family and their role in their job and their role in their marriage and their role as a father. And like, I just want to like give like a virtual hug and tell you a story about like a time where I felt like I had a wish, like this wish of like, I felt so uncut out as a dad, like even after the passing of my daughter, right? I was still drinking the Kool-Aid I would go, like, it was amazing for like 18 months or 2 years. And then I got back into this old mindset of like, is marriage for me? Like, what am I doing? Like, and like, I was back in it. And like, there was a part of me that just kind of wished secretly, like, maybe this could just like start over. And I don't know, does that mean a divorce? I don't know, man. Like, and I was just like in this place. And like, dude, everything changed for me like so fast because I think once we have a, what is it, like definite purpose in how we are living, the universe immediately starts to rearrange itself and test you and say, okay, wise guy, you say you want to be, you want to know what it's like to be single.
Yeah.
So you want to know what it's like to be alone now? I'm going to give you a taste of what that's like. And so for me, what that looked like was sitting right here in this space. My wife and I were essentially bickering about some kind of school transportation of some kind, of like who's going to do what. This is 9 days after my fifth baby, baby Dax. And we were just talking and discussing how this logistical thing was going to happen. Anyway, I hear from the other side of the phone, hey, my heart hurts. And she's in the master bedroom across the house, and I'm just working. And I'm like, you're what? And she's like, my heart hurts. And I drop my phone right away and I go into the bedroom, and she's very uncomfortable. Long story short, now I don't even know if I can say long story short because that's just my segue. That's my segue word. But what happened from there was like, she got up, she bent over. It looked like she's trying to work out like a gas pain almost. And we didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Within a few seconds, she bent over and then she fell across our bed, and she was draped over the corner of the bed.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, I'm panicking for sure. And I pick her up off the corner of the bed. She is frozen, like almost like rigor mortis frozen in how she was draped over the bed. And she's laying on our floor. And Ned, I don't say this lightly, but I can all but verify that my wife died that day. Died that day right in front of my eyes.
Whoa.
I'm on the call with 911 trying to figure out when they can get an ambulance out here. And, she comes back. She comes back from that experience. And the paramedics basically stabilize her and bring her to the hospital for an emergency surgery, which was a double bypass open heart surgery.
Whoa.
So I am staring down the barrel of what is it going to look like to be a widower? What is it going to look like to raise these kids alone? And what is it going to look like to raise a baby infant that's 9 days old from here on out? And then for the next 2.5 weeks, basically, I got my dose of all of it, because her mortality rate with this type of heart attack is 30%. 30%. So I'm living this nightmare that I thought I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I didn't want it. I was like, oh, not this way. No, not this way. I don't want it that way. And then it basically, so many takeaways from that experience, Ned, but basically I walked away. Once she came back home, life was very different. Obviously, when you're having to take care of a baby, she couldn't hold the baby.
Right.
There was a weight limit, 10 pounds. He was already 10 pounds, So it's she had to live in a tube essentially and not extend her arms too far and all this stuff. But it took weeks and weeks and weeks for her to recover. And thank God, literally, thank God she is she's recovered and she made it. And now I get to look backwards with my lens and I get to assign value to all of that and say, when you say, Chad, are you grateful for your marriage? Now I get to say I am grateful.
Yeah.
And I mean it. And I really mean it. And that doesn't mean that everything's healed and better. But dude, they're better than they ever have been.
Yeah.
Things are way good. When I realize just how fragile life is and get to play in that space of really understanding how quick things change and how insignificant most of the stuff is that we try to make a big deal.
Yeah, that's such a good statement. It's crazy.
Bro, nothing matters. Nothing matters except for right now. And that's what people don't understand is we're so worried about the presentation next week, and we got a house building, and we're doing this over here, and we got that over there, and oh my gosh, my childhood traumas, and there's all this, and we just don't even understand what we have. None of that even matters when that kind of stuff happens, and that's how it should always be. Because what those things do is they rip you in to the moment now.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Dude, I like that. They rip you into the moment. So how do you stay in that moment? I mean, obviously, it would probably be exhausting to be in that moment all the time. But how do you utilize those things? You mentioned gratitude. Any other things that can help pull us into the moment at hand?
Well, I like to, I don't know, all the things, because I'm really heads down trying to study this right now, because it's
Okay.
it's really fascinating for me too, because I don't got it figured out. But I'm starting to develop this framework of lenses to view life so that I can deploy those in scenarios that are really stressful or really hard, or, like maybe they're like, I need perspective and I need to like, find myself like really worried about what just happened or really worried about what's going to happen. I think it's just like this consciousness we're
Yeah.
continuing to open ourselves up. But like these lenses are like not all my own, but like I love this idea of the last time lens, using this
Mm-hmm.
lens for last times and understanding that like, if this was the last time, like this morning I thought about it. I was like, Chad, what if this was the last time you get a workout? What would this next
Mm.
what would this next rep look like?
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
put everything into that set, right?
Uh,
So like, what if this is the last volleyball game you get to go to tonight to support your daughter? Like, how hard are you going to cheer?
hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Man.
It's using that lens and understanding that like nothing's guaranteed for tomorrow. Nothing's even guaranteed after we end this moment right now.
Right.
Nothing
Right.
is nothing's no guarantees, man. Like we're all in. Like we're all in. Like because we're born, we're all in, and we're all gonna die. So like it could be, but like there's that concept, and then there's the concept of like this grandpa lens. Like I
Mm.
have this lens of just like being able to transport myself and think about like being a great great grandpa, being a great grandpa. Like, what does it feel like to look at all these kids and think about all these things and see their kids and their kids and have this posterity? And maybe, like maybe I'm still like listening to hip hop music and I'm still doing this and that as an old dude, like just imagining what that feels like. And then like taking that person and bringing him back and
Yes.
sitting in myself
Yes.
and saying like, oh, how awesome is this right now? Even in the worst of times, I'm trying this. Like I'm literally trying to like go through these exercises when I can, or when I can like have the presence. But like just sitting in that moment and saying like, even though like right now really sucks, this grandpa lens is making this perspective the best because
Mm.
I love this moment too. Like, but just having that, like that perspective of like, dude, when you're a grandpa, you're going to wish you were young, but now we get to use that and live young.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a hack, dude. It's pretty fun to mess with. So there's probably a few more, but like, I think it's that kind of stuff that like you can develop little tools and understand that kind of stuff. And just really lean into the discomforts and realize that they're not bad. It's just like it's data. We get to assign the meaning to the data. You can
Mm-hmm.
the data. Like
I love that.
isn't that like how stats are anyway in data? Like
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
you can make it look
Yeah.
like
Whatever you want.
is it good or is it bad? Who cares? Like you can make it say whatever you want it to say. So like it's the same thing with your life. It's the same thing with your trauma. It's the same thing with this moment is you get to decide your choice. You
Dude.
decide like how is it that you're going to show up in your marriage today?
Yeah.
Like you get that moment and you get that last time lens with your wife. Like what if you leave, you go to the grocery store and that's the last time? How would you kiss and greet your wife? What would you say to her? What actions would you take and be different and more intentional? Like
Yeah.
when you start doing that and start living more purposefully, like I think everything starts to shift and people start to notice like, whoa, like dad is like ultra present, like he never does this, that's crazy, like, but like, and then it will eventually be not crazy, and then guess what happens with your legacy? They get to pass that on.
Yeah. Yes, dude, which leads me to my last question, which is a legacy question. And that is, when you are that grandfather looking into the homes of your children and your grandchildren, what is it that you want to see that would put a big old smile on your face to go, Chad was there. Chad was present.
Wow, what a question. I just see I don't know, in my mind's eye, this idea of just being gathered. I don't
Mm,
sure, but like I think there's just this
that's a
feeling,
good word.
being gathered
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
and able to like unite and connect people. Maybe back to my
Mm,
initial comment of like I love connecting to people and with people. And And I hope that like people are so connected in that moment that they understand that like they are accepted, that they are,
Hmm.
that, like this is a safe space to be, and that they get to be in that, and that, like the joy of being in that space with them. And also like when things are hard, being in that space with someone is like a real gift as well. Like it's not
Mhm.
just the gift of like, oh, things are good. It's like, no, like we get to show up even when things are bad. And I hope that like my family gathering is like that. I hope it's like that. Is just like, oh, we're gathered, we're here, we're present, we're enjoying it. I don't know. Like that's just
Dude,
kind
I
of
love it.
my mind.
Dude, I love it. That word gathered, united, and connected. I mean, what else is there, being present in that? Chad, dude, thank you for the work that you've done. Somebody recently said, and it's kind of hit me, is our trauma is either transformed or transferred. And the life that you're living is one of transformation, just to continue to progress, like, and create good foundation for future families. And it matters, dude. It matters. Like, my kids could marry your kids. So the
Yeah.
way that I'm a dad, the way that you're a dad, like, dude, that freaking matters for our kids' futures.
Yeah.
And so, dude, I just want to honor you and in the work that you've done, the work that you continue to do, the way that you love your wife, your kids, and continuously learning to love yourself and your creator. Just keep after it, bro. And I just look forward to being connected to you. I just want to give you a big virtual hug and thank you for the work, dude. It's incredible. It's inspiring.
Thanks, man. Well, I'm inspired by your work, man. I got the Adventures of Fatherhood. I got the books, man. I'm studying, I'm learning, and in all
Heck yeah.
honesty, like I actually still feel like I'm learning how to be a dad, and like how awesome is that process? Like I don't
Dude,
think,
me too.
you know. So like I've actually gained so much wisdom by just listening to you on Zooms and stuff, and being able to
Mm.
like, like I don't know if you knew this. And I know we're like wrapping it up, but this isn't like a long thing by any means. But like when you shared once about one of your children that was in proximity to some abuse, this was a while ago, and I don't know how
Yeah.
you can cut this, obviously, but like that got me having conversations with other dads.
Mm.
That got me having conversations with other dads, and it changed my trajectory, and it gave me like this one thing that I felt like was missing. And this is what's
Mm.
so interesting. I went to one of my son's friend's house. I was like, oh, I don't know that friend. I want to meet his dad. And so
Yes.
I go and meet his dad, and he's like, not too far from me, like 4 blocks away. And I shake his hand. I say, hey, how are you? I'm Jackson's dad. It's nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, thanks for coming over. I would have thought less if you didn't.
Wow.
And I was,
Yes.
oh, got it. Like I never even thought about that. Like I was just like, I was naturally interested in, like understanding him. But like this, like, dude, that is such a good field note for dads, is just like, go meet other dads and let them see
Yes.
your face and let them look in
Yep.
your eye and give them the look of like, this is my everything.
Dude, yeah, I'm here. I just need you to know that
Yeah.
I'm here. I exist. This isn't just mom dropping my kids off to somebody's house because they all happen to go to the same Christian school together or whatever, right? It's like, dads, we got to be engaged in those moments. And dude, it's hard for me too. It's getting easier, but to
Yeah.
be like, all right, I'm going to make this awkward walk up. I'm going to go meet this person. And my kids are sometimes like, why are you doing this? Why are you meeting the other dads? And it's like, because it matters.
Yeah.
Because we got to know we exist,
Yeah. What a great model. What a great model. That's just like one of those things that like, oh, I don't know if my dad did that or not. I'm not sure, but like it didn't stand out to me until you mentioned it. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Like
Yeah.
protect at all
And
times.
that's what we need, dude, is like that's why this is so important, is like we are able to share our field notes and go, hey, what's working for you? Let me run this by. We all have something to give and we all have something to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that is missing. Like a lot of us are just learning, and we're not realizing that we have something to give. I love it, Chad. I loved our time together. Thank you, bro. Until next time. What an incredible conversation, my friends. I so enjoyed even that last word of gathered. Thinking about being men that gather, right? If you're going to gather, it gives this sense of like protection and you belong here and I'm here with my arms around you. I love that statement. And I want to be a father who is gathering those around me. And as I'm even saying this, the being approachable, the whole discussion around being approachable and our reaction to good news and bad news, beautiful, beautiful. Friends, we must know who we are. The world would look and feel different if men showed up in their identity to love, serve, guide, provide, and protect. And this is why I launched Adventure of Fatherhood. Go check it out, adventureoffatherhood.com. You can grab the kids book, which helps a dad see who he is. You can order as a gift for a new dad. And then soon we're going to be launching an introductory to fatherhood course taught by yours truly to help fathers discover how powerful their fatherhood role is. I want to say thank you to all you dads out there listening to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide and edge shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact and create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.